At ExxonMobil Australia, we have a long, proud history of reliably supplying essential energy to Australians. From our humble beginnings as the vacuum oil company selling a barrel of cylinder oil to a Bendigo gold mine from our Melbourne office back in 1895, 130 years later, we have grown to become one of Australia's most critical energy suppliers. Following our discovery of Australia's first offshore gas at the Barracuda field in Bass Strait 60 years ago, our Gippsland operations have produced more than half of Australia's crude oil, and in their most prosperous days were providing over 10% of Australian government revenue. And today, that vital role we play is just as important as it was decades ago. Every day, our people work to supply almost half of Victoria's transportation fuel needs, while every molecule of our Gippsland gas produced from Bass Strait goes exclusively to the domestic market, helping to heat and power Victorian homes and fuel Victorian businesses. It was encouraging to see a pledge to secure affordable and reliable renewable energy for Victorians in the Victorian Government's climate change strategy released just last week. We agree that balancing the supply of reliable and affordable energy while reducing emissions is crucial for our future. It's not an either-or proposition, it is an and equation. Gas is an important source of electricity generation, and its role in supporting the integration of intermittent renewables into power grids can help, not hinder, emissions reduction goals. I'm proud to say we're doing our part by continuing to invest in maintaining our reliable supply of Gippsland gas to Australia. Our customers include some of Australia's largest manufacturers of steel, glass and paper, industries that power Australian jobs and make our Australian way of life possible. Over the last decade, we've invested almost $1 billion in the Gippsland Basin, delivering much-needed gas to Australians. These investments include the Kippa 1B projects, which started up just last month, the Kippa Compression Project and the West Barracuda Project, which came online in 2021. And right now, in conjunction with our joint venture partner Woodside Energy, we are investing $350 million to develop the Turrum Phase 3 project, which will further bolster supplies of Gippsland gas to the East Coast domestic market by 2027. Turrum Phase 3 will be one of the largest gas developments on the East Coast and means our Gippsland operations are set to continue powering Australian homes and businesses well into the next decade. I mentioned earlier that it's been 60 years since our first discovery of gas in 1965. Now, those of you who are approaching that age are probably looking forward to retirement, and similarly, after decades of hard work, some of our Bass Strait fields have now been retired. So while ongoing investments will see us maintain our reliable supply of gas from Bass Strait into the 2030s, we are at the same time responsibly decommissioning a number of our offshore facilities that are no longer producing oil and gas. You may be surprised to learn that Victoria is home to Australia's largest decommissioning project and ExxonMobil's largest decommissioning project globally, a multi-year, multi-billion-dollar program of works. So far, we've safely completed over $2.5 billion of early works across our offshore operations, including the permanent sealing of more than 200 wells. All this work is preparing for the arrival of the world's largest construction vessel, the All Seas Pioneering Spirit, in 2027. This mammoth vessel, which is as long as almost 3 MCGs, will travel from Norway to start removal of the 12 retired offshore facilities in Bass Strait and deliver them to our Barry Beach Marine Terminal in southeast Gippsland, where they will be safely dismantled and recycled. We plan to maximise recycling of these facilities for a second life and minimise the number of materials that are processed as waste. In fact, our aim is to recycle more than 95% of the mostly steel from our oil and gas structures. Most of the steel will either be sent off-site in trucks or via ships to onward transportation and recycling facilities. From our early days of exploration and development in the 1960s through our ongoing investment in maintaining our supply of essential energy to Australia, right through to our responsible decommissioning of facilities as they progressively retire, ExxonMobil is proud to be continuing our legacy of safe and reliable operations supporting the economic prosperity of Australia and this great state of Victoria, now and into the future. With that, I'd like to now welcome the Premier to the stage.
Well, good afternoon, and I too would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we're meeting on here today, the Wurundjeri people, and pay my respects to their elders past and present, and extend that same respect to any elders who are with us here in the room today. Can I also thank you, Melinda, you and your CEDA team, for the opportunity to address this room today. It's a great opportunity to talk about the great state of Victoria, and I'm delighted that a number of my parliamentary colleagues, ministerial colleagues, are with us here today as well. To Deputy Premier Ben Carroll, to Ministers Danny Pearson and Steve Dimopoulos, and Members of Parliament Paul Edbrook and Ella George, thank you for joining us. And also thank you to you, Simon, both for your welcome introduction and outline the great investment opportunities that ExxonMobil are providing here in Victoria. And it is great to once again be addressing the event here at CEDA. I have very much been looking forward to the event today. I've had it circled in my calendar, but I also couldn't help looking a few more days ahead on that calendar to this Sunday, November the 30th. That's the day, you might have heard, we open the Metro Tunnel. And I'm sure none of you thought you'd get out of the room here today, this week, without hearing me talk about it just one more time. Twin 9-kilometre tunnels, 5 new underground stations. It's concrete and steel that is going to deliver 1,000 additional services every week on 70 brand new trains that are made right here in Victoria. It will connect you to major university campuses, 4 major hospitals and 1 million jobs. It's a unified end-to-end 97-kilometre long rail line. It will be our state's longest and busiest line. Upgraded its entire length from one side of the city of Melbourne to the other, with not a single level crossing in between. It was the biggest and most complex rail project in our state's history. But I say very clearly here today that people matter more than projects, because it's for the future of our people here in Victoria that we've worked hard over the last decade to build the Metro Tunnel, and it's everyday Victorians who are going to benefit. Everyday Victorians like the carers and people with a disability that I had the pleasure of meeting with on Monday will have the opportunity to get off the train at the brand new Parkville station at the doorstep of Australia's #1 health precinct. And if they're travelling on any weekend, they will not have to pay a cent to use public transport. Can I say, neither will any of you here in the room today. Every weekend from this Sunday through to the 1st of February next year. And also too, because we've made public transport free for every child, every day, everywhere, forever, neither will your kids or your nieces and nephews. But even if you don't use one of those extra services on the Metro Tunnel, it will also save you time. When we pull that big switch from the 1st of February and add those 1,000 additional services, they'll take more cars off the road in the morning for you. Also too, when that other tunnel, the Westgate Tunnel, opens up in December, you'll save up to 20 minutes driving into the city. These are the kinds of productivity benefits and gains that you unlock when you invest. And in Victoria, we are building up the infrastructure and the services that people need. We've also done it in a sustainable way, in line with our strong 5-point fiscal plan. We've also done it in a Labor way, without cuts and closures that hurt many ordinary people. That's how we're about to open 2 massive new projects in our biggest city, while booking the only budget surplus of a government on the eastern seaboard, state or federal. And we've achieved that result because our investments have supported the growth of our economy and the growth of our population. In other words, they are paying off. People are flocking here. They're flocking here because of our great way of life, our strong services, our skilled job market, and our record home building. Public and private investment are driving it. We've added more than 123,000 new businesses in the last 5 years, 16,400 in the last year alone. These businesses are selling more overseas, with our export value up by more than 5% since last year. But it's the job story that we can be most proud of. Our regional unemployment rate is the lowest in the country. Our overall employment growth is even stronger than we anticipated at budget time. And above all, our high participation rate says workers are more confident here than interstate. But also make no mistake, women are driving these trends, and we must keep working hard to reduce the barriers to women entering or re-entering the workforce. We must get mums and millennials in the driver's seat of the economy where they belong. I know CEDA gets this. Your research confirmed what I knew, that work from home works for families. Thanks to work from home, workforce participation is 4.4% higher than before the pandemic. Those who work from home are working nearly 20% more hours than those who don't. And they're saving money. They're saving an average of $5,300 a year. Work from home is already happening in many white-collar workplaces. My plan to legislate the right to work from home is about protecting it, so it can't be rolled back. Now, you might have seen some businesses have disagreed. I've listened to their views, I've respected them. I haven't changed my mind. And in the years to come, I think those businesses will change theirs. A journalist asked me recently, why are you trying to get people to work from home at the same time you're building infrastructure to get them into the office? To me, these objectives are deeply connected. I'm for making life easier for working families, whatever their circumstances. That means building Victoria up and building an economy that's fair. Now, the data here is clear. Our state is on the rise, our economy is growing, our budget is in surplus, we borrowed to build and it's paying off. But everywhere you look around the world, people who are meant to be in the prime of their lives are still getting a raw deal. If you're under 40 and you can't rely on your parents for help with your first home or a start in your career, the odds are still stacked against you. You studied hard to work in careers that might not exist. You're paying 8 times more than your parents did for a house, and perhaps that's 8 times further away than you'd like. State governments can't fix it all, but we are doing what we can to give you a leg up. More schools and hospitals, more homes and transport, free kinder, free TAFE, free public transport. We are doing all of this because I believe in an economy that works for young women and families, because if it doesn't work for them, it doesn't work at all. We need young families to spend in our small businesses, not drown in rent or mortgage repayments. We need young workers to prepare for the future of work, not wait for AI to roll through. And we need them to be able to afford kids and have the chance to live near the things they need and the people they love. And we also need these families to be supported by the backbone of good jobs and modern, accessible public services. Now, our whole economy is under threat if a decent life becomes unaffordable for millennials, if homes, study, kids and services are out of reach. We're a quarter of a way into the digital century, and the world is now at a turning point for this most important generation. Imagine the impact on every facet of our economic life if we make the wrong turn at this point. That's why we are building Victoria up. While I do acknowledge that others are talking it down, that's why we are building an economy that's fair for young working families, and that's why we're staking out Victoria's economic future in new industries that will create extraordinary opportunity. It was about a year ago that I released Victoria's economic growth statement, and those who paid attention and read that statement might have noticed its reference to critical minerals. We said then that they would be the focus for the future. Now, back then, we had to do a bit of explaining at the time to some what critical minerals and rare earths are. Well, 12 months later, the world has well and truly caught up. Even Donald Trump said from the West Wing, and I quote, "Australia will have so much critical minerals and rare earths, you won't know what to do with them." Victoria is home to globally significantly deposits of critical minerals. We have titanium, zirconium and rare earth elements. We have Australia's largest antimony deposits and the only operating antimony mine. And we know what to do with them. Through the economic growth statement, we started coordinating, lining everything up to build a mature critical minerals industry here in Victoria. We estimated that this industry will contribute more than $1 billion in royalties to the state and support more than 7,000 jobs. And I'm pleased to tell you today that today we hit go. I'm proud to share with you that my government has formally approved an antimony exploration tunnel at Sunday Creek, which is located up near Kilmore. It's the first big step towards a new antimony mine. Southern Cross Gold can now drill underground to test the feasibility of mining gold and antimony. And thanks to our Critical Minerals Coordination Office, it's Victoria's fastest approval of an exploration tunnel on record. Our economic growth statement also shone the spotlight on AI. It's where our state can lead if we make the right choices. Now, every reasonable Australian does accept that there are both opportunities and risks in the adoption of this technology. The challenge is how we negotiate that balance, who wins out of it, and for now, I want to see Victoria winning out of it. Our CBD is home to the largest cluster of AI firms in Australia, and soon it'll be even larger as they're joined by NextDC's new $2 billion digital campus in Fisherman's Bend. Advancements in AI can generate up to $30 billion in GSP over the next 10 years. And the research says too that it will improve our productivity and our lives. But in that future with AI, the gains won't be worth it if we are not prioritising people. People are our economy. I'm the daughter of a man who worked with his hands. I watched him being made redundant with the stroke of a pen. I don't want to see a future where a politician, perhaps 40 years from now, has to say, I'm the daughter of a man who used to work with a screen. My Labor government has the obligation, but also the opportunity to influence that future. We cannot stop AI, but if we move first, we can steer it. We can maximise the benefits whilst also protecting our people so our workers are better off from the change, not left behind in its wake. And I truly believe that it's only a Labor government that can get this balance right. And if we do, we know that AI can deliver net jobs here. It can attract investment. It can help a small business in Werribee expand, a manufacturer in Dandenong modernise, a startup in Cremorne scale. It can take the grind out of work, lift productivity, and most importantly give people time back in their day. That's the path that I see in front of us. We do need some guardrails along the edge of that path and confidence in the goal. And there are two things that I'd like to announce here today to help us stay on that course. The first is we're going after the data centre jobs. We're going to be ruthless about it. Data centres are the digital infrastructure that supports AI around the world. They create new jobs because they must be built and they must be staffed. And we already have more than 40 of them here in Victoria. I want Victoria to be the data centre. We have the land, we have the energy, we have the talent, and now I'm announcing today the Sustainable Data Centre Action Plan. We'll back this plan with a $5.5 million investment, and it will position Victoria as the national leader in data centre investment, unlocking projects in the pipeline that are worth up to $25 billion in potential capital expenditure. It will turn the powers of our state's integrated mapping technology to determine where these data centres can go sustainably, using our transport, energy and water usage data, including recycled water. Also it will partner with TAFEs to build a data centre workforce pipeline, the construction workers, operation workers and digital workers alike. And secondly, we'll protect existing jobs by doing exactly what the education state does best, educating. Now, when I was at university, the advice was clear. The future, and it was some time ago, of course, the future was in software development, not in the social sciences I was studying. Today, digital workers are hearing a similar message, this time because of AI. So the grads across other digital and information tech heavy fields like finance, accounting and marketing. But for my generation, those jobs in social sciences, they didn't all disappear, they changed. And in 2025, AI is also that evolution. Victorians can move into AI roles and become AI specialists in their current field, and we want to be able to help them. The jobs are there ready to be taken up. That's why I'm also announcing today an $8.1 million investment into AI career conversion. We'll be providing tailored intensive training to upskill digital professionals to become AI specialists. We'll target those sectors where we know we can make the biggest difference and fast. And we'll offer it to more than 1,300 workers who are most at risk. This is all part of a serious, comprehensive approach. A mission statement to maximise the benefits of AI while protecting our workforce. And I'd like to acknowledge the work of my Economic Growth Minister, Danny Pearson, who is with us here today, who has led this work. And he'll hand down that mission statement in coming weeks, and it'll be our plan to put people first in a future with AI. And we'll be the first state in the country to deliver anything like it. It will have further initiatives to further attract jobs and investment here into Victoria, and it will be guided by that AI mission statement, spelling out what we need to do to get the balance right, both now and into the future. So as I look forward shortly to your questions, there is one final pitch from me before I do. Let me go back to Sunday morning, the 30th of November, at Arden, Parkville, State Library, Town Hall, Anzac Station. Be there on opening day. You can travel for free. I've said very clearly to you here today that Victoria's economic strength is its people. So please do go and see for yourself what our incredible people have built right underneath our feet in the CBD of Melbourne in the Metro Tunnel. And I promise you, you will be filled with just absolute pride to see what our great city and state is capable of when we invest in our future. Thank you.
Well, what a great way to kick off today. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for taking the time to answer some questions on behalf of the room. You covered a lot just now. A few takeaways from me were around the Metro tunnels and free transport, loud and clear. We're very excited about the economic growth that you outlined and the housing affordability, which goes with that. And then, of course, some of the key programs you talked around. Critical minerals, AI and data. I think I'm getting a... Thank you so much. We can share. You also talked about how well women were doing it together, so I appreciate your help on that one. So I just wanted to remind people how you can ask questions this afternoon. It will come up shortly behind me, but you can ask via Pigeonhole link and the password State of Victoria, State of Vic rather, and you also have on your table information around how you can submit questions. The good news is we've started to get some questions already, but we'd really appreciate if you can vote on some of those questions and add to those questions so that we can prioritise the ones that you really care about. I thought I might kick off with some questions from our end. Now, obviously, Westpac is has a long and ingrained relationship with the state. We're a very proud banking partner of the state. We're also very proud of the Westpac scholars that we have in the room, but we also contribute to a number of other programs around housing affordability and infrastructure. And so I thought we might actually start there. So you've put home building at the centre of your agenda. What else do you need to boost the supply?
Well, thank you, Catherine, and it is great to have the opportunity to talk about how we need to build more homes. And we're coming at this discussion from a couple of points. One is there is clearly in recent generations not enough has been done on the question of supply. So there's a lot that needs to be changed, both from how government approves and delivers and has its legislative and regulatory settings right, but also to how we support the industry to build homes as well. Also too, it is recognising, and I think I said it earlier, for young people, for millennials, like it's just so expensive. It's 4 times harder than it is now than it was 20 years ago to be able to find their first home. And so we've understood that this is a critically important issue both now and into the future. And we've got to make sure that we build more homes statewide because it's not enough even growth in the building of more homes, and we've got to build a different mix of homes across the state as well. Now, the good news news is here in Victoria, we're coming from a position where we are building and approving more homes than any other state, but I do acknowledge it's still not enough, which is why we are taking a comprehensive look at every lever we have available to us as a state government to build more homes. And so some of those initiatives include looking at our own work that we need to do around building more homes, particularly changing the planning rules so that we can have greater density around train stations also too that are all being built as a result of removing level crossings, and they're exactly the right location. Looking at the precincts like around the new suburban rail loop stations, like at Arden Station where the Deputy Premier and I was this morning, a brand new station in a space that's going to see tens of thousands of people live into the future, right next to train stations. It's also looking at how we accelerate our planning and approvals processes. This is critically important, and there is a bill in the Parliament right now that is about fast-tracking housing approvals. I don't want to see that bill get stuck in the upper house. So if I can put a bit of a plug in for the audience, if you know anyone in the upper house, please encourage them to support this bill if you believe in getting more homes built more quickly, because we need to change the settings that we have here in Victoria to drag our planning laws out of the previous century and into today, and looking at how we get more homes built more quickly. There's the work we do as a government to get more homes built, more public housing, recognising that for many the government is a provider of housing. But this is a task that is not going to stop, because it's just not fair that too many young people are getting locked out of the opportunity to live in the suburb where they grew up in. And if I can finish with this one stat, over the last 20 years, the housing growth in the city of Melton, on the outer edge of the city of Melbourne, has grown by 433%. In the city of Boroondara, which is in the inner eastern suburbs, it's only grown by 24%. And some recent data that came out from KPMG showed that the working age population in the city of Boroondara had dropped by 6,000. That's a really powerful data point, that too many young people of working age are not getting the chance to live in locations where they might have grown up in, their family are close by, which is why we need to continue to look at every lever, and that does include overhauling the legislative settings as well.
Thank you. Now, thank you very much to the room. We are getting quite a few good questions coming through. Some of the thematics, just as a heads up, is around cost cutting, business sentiment, and you'll be very pleased to hear data centres. So I'll get a chance to talk about those. So question number one is that the government's received Helen Silver's cost cutting review back in June. When will you make it public, and can you rule out cutting up to 3,000 public service jobs?
Well, we will be releasing it very soon, and perhaps disappointingly for the person who's asked this question, I won't be releasing the detail of what is in that report here in the room today. But we have identified that in terms of looking at how we operate as a government for the decade ahead, not for the decades that have been behind us, but looking at how you have a modern, well-functioning public service. And I should say in this context that I'm really proud of our Victorian public service. I want to continue to have a good, strong public service because it is essential to the delivery of good, strong public services. But we know that you need to look, like every business does. You have to go back and have a look at what's working, what's not working. Just because a program has been there for 20 years doesn't mean it's serving the purpose that it should serve today or indeed into the future. And so that is why we commissioned the work of former Secretary of the Department of Premier and Cabinet and Department of Treasury and Finance, Helen Silver, to do this work, to give advice to government on how we can both look at getting, yes, efficiencies out of government, but also to looking at how we build the public service of the future that is focused on the delivery of those frontline services.
Excellent. So we've talked about energy, we've talked about data centres. So the question comes in, the energy requirements for data centres are massive and Victoria is already undergoing a difficult energy transition. Where is the energy needed to power these new data centres coming from?
Well, this is exactly why the announcement I've just made around our sustainable data data centre action plan is so important, because data centres are both here and more are coming, and they are the way of the future. You think about every touch point of our lives in terms of how we use technologies, and then you look at how companies will engage with it and the efficiencies and the productivity benefits that come. So we want to harness that, but recognise that I don't see those issues around energy and water as necessarily blockages. I see them a bit like when we were building the Metro Tunnel and the Westgate Tunnel. They're challenges to work through, and you can work through them with industry. You can work through them by having that data available to us. And we also know whether it's water, the recycled water can play a role. I know some of the data centres already are contemplating some of the closed loop energy networks as well. These are the sorts of partnerships we want to drive. We shouldn't be necessarily see that as something that holds us back. We should be embracing it, because if we can unlock some of these energy solutions, we also know it can unlock energy solutions for the communities around which these data centres are located. So I see this as just, as I said, in the delivery of infrastructure. You see a hurdle, you work through it, similarly to with data centres, because the opportunities that sit on the other side in terms of jobs and investment, but also harnessing all of those skilled workers and all of that intelligence and all of that intellectual property here in Victoria is incredibly important for the future growth of our state.
And in talking about growth in the state, rising land tax burdens are discouraging investment in Victoria. Will your government rethink the settings to restore confidence in the state?
Look, I appreciate that this is a really big issue for some in our community, and my answer needs to, I think, if I can just sit it in the context of what we are as a state of Victoria. We're a people state, we're not a resource state, and as a consequence of that, our revenue base is a lot narrower than other states around the nation. And so when you're looking at how do you raise revenue to invest in the frontline services a growing and ageing population needs, to invest in the productive infrastructure that builds for the future, we are always carefully examining our revenue base, which is why, and I know this is a statistic that is not often reported, but we have cut or reduced taxes something like 64 times over the time of this Labor government, most recently with the cut to off-the-plan stamp duty concessions for apartments. So we do look at ways that we can reduce, recognising that it is a challenge for businesses. It is something that often gets raised, but it does need to be seen in that broader context about how do we get that balance right between continuing to have that investment in the services that working people and families rely on, and also to support business activity. And if you look at the business activity here in Victoria, we have a growth rate, the data last week, we have a growth rate that is higher than New South Wales. I mentioned we're building more homes than any other state. We are attracting businesses and jobs more than any other state. And we constantly, though, have to look at our settings, look at how we understand that this can be a challenge that is raised with us from business, but I do hope it can be seen in that broader context of the revenue base of this state. We do, a stat we like to use is we do collect less revenue per head of capita than Western Australia, and when you consider all the royalties and other GST benefits that state gets, no disrespect to our friends from Western Australia, but it is I think it is important to put it in that context.
Yeah.
It really is. But in terms of what we're seeing in terms of the economic growth, our economy is growing. We are attracting more people. We are attracting more investment. And I'm really proud to be the Premier of a state that more and more people see their future here for them, their kids and their businesses, and are choosing Victoria.
And you've touched on businesses a couple of times there. We have got a number of questions coming through around business sentiment. A couple of phrases have been used around being grumpy and an acronym I've never heard of, anywhere but Melbourne. So the question is, how are you addressing business sentiment to combat some of those?
Look, we've all got a role to play here. I say this very clearly. I'm very proud to be the Premier of the best state in the nation. And I know many business people, many members of the community are also damn proud of this great state. And that acronym that you referred to, necessarily hear that here in Victoria. You might hear it a bit in Sydney, you might hear it a bit in other parts of the country, because we are in a globally competitive environment, and it is our competitors that do want to talk Melbourne down. It's my political competitors that it's in their political interests to talk Melbourne down, to talk Victoria down. Well, I won't. We've got to build our great city and state up, and there's no doubt, I say it in the context that there is no doubt that there are some challenges and complexities that we are all experiencing, that we've not seen this combination before, and it is putting pressures, the cost of living pressures that are so real. You've mentioned some of the revenue challenges that I know I hear from business as well. But when you sit it in the broader context of the fact that we are creating more jobs, we are building more homes, we are seeing growth faster than New South Wales, we're attracting more people. And plenty of those people from interstate love coming here to our major events and have a fantastic time and spend money in our restaurants and stay in our hotels and accommodation venues. So we've got a lot to be proud of here in Victoria, and I'll continue to stand up and talk up and fight for our state, but also to build for that future, like the projects like the Metro Tunnel and Westgate Tunnel, because that is how you continue to attract investment, you continue to attract people by making it a great place to live.
So moving from some of the downside to some of the upside, a question here: if you could change one thing in Victoria with a magic wand, what would it be and why?
Well, today I'd like it to be a little bit warmer. It'd be nice if we got the warmer weather. I think I mentioned this in the previous answer. I think there's no doubt that there are some real pressures at the moment. There's a combination of factors that are putting pressures on people and families and workers. And a lot of that is driven by conflicts that are beyond our shores, beyond our control. And I would like to see some of that pressure alleviated, some of that constancy of conflict being alleviated, because I do know it is having an impact on many people and families here in Victoria.
So we've got some questions talking about how the state can partner with rural councils. Back again, talking about social licence for energy transition and the critical mineral mining. And leave legacy community benefits into regional Victoria. Can you kind of talk about how you're thinking about that opportunity?
Yeah, I think this is a really important question for those rural communities that are home to the infrastructure that's needed to drive the energy transition, to keep us connected to renewable energy. And then, as you've referred to, the announcements around critical minerals, it is important that there's not only a conversation and a partnership with those communities, that they do see something that benefits them. There's the jobs that come from those opportunities, the work that Minister Lily D'Ambrosio has led through the renewable energy work and through VicGrid, the agency that works with communities on delivering the transmission infrastructure, does have a community benefits program as part of it. I do also say, and I say this from the perspective of someone who I represent the regional centre of Bendigo, but I have small rural communities in my electorate as well. And I've seen firsthand where those resource companies work with local small communities and sit around the kitchen table and listen to them and work with them and support them. You can get a really productive partnership. And so that is where I think there is again a role for government to lead, but also to support those businesses and industries that are in these rural communities, to help them partner with those rural communities to support both the economic activity that comes with these projects, but also to recognising the way of life of these rural communities and how you can invest and support them.
Now, we are probably at the final question, so to leave on a high, debt management. There's actually quite a few questions around debt, so a couple of them, just to bring them together, is what is the plan to reduce the debt, and will you take up the opposition leader Jessica Wilson's offer to collaborate on debt management?
Well, on the second part of that question first, the answer was provided by the Treasurer a couple of days ago, and the answer is no, because we're being asked to do something that the Liberal Party wouldn't do themselves, and I don't think that's the way to go. And I certainly won't be joining a political outfit that is only ever cut funding to those frontline services that are so important to working people and families. The approach we are taking is outlined in our 5-point fiscal strategy. It's been in place for the last couple of years and it is working. And the proof point that it is working is the one that I gave earlier in my speech. We are the only state, we're the only government on the eastern seaboard, federal or state, to have that operating surplus on our books. And that is as a result of making a series of sensible and disciplined decisions that we know we'll have to continue to make, which goes back to that question earlier about the review that's being delivered to government by Helen Silver. But also it's understanding too that as a result of those decisions, a result of having a fiscal strategy that is working, that is delivering an operating surplus, it's what you then do with those budget settings, because it's recognising that an economy is about people and it's about supporting people. If you want to support people to be productive, we've got to make sure that they've got access to good health services, access to good education and skill opportunities, have got the productive infrastructure of road and rail to connect them to their jobs and the services that they need. And they're the decisions that my Labor government has taken and will continue to take. And then we add to that with understanding that from time to time, and particularly right now, there are a lot of families and people who are feeling under pressure. And as a result of those fiscal settings, as a result of having an economy that is growing, but it's not growing fairly for everyone, we can provide that real support through cost of living measures like free public transport and other programs. And so that is how we continue to support our economy, our community, with having a strong fiscal strategy that is coupled with an economic growth plan, but is always focused on the people that we are here to serve.
Look, I'd like to thank you for being part of such a candid conversation. My key takeaways were obviously the metro tunnels, and I will say it again, free transport, if you didn't hear it. Economic growth and housing affordability, but of course some really exciting programs announced today around critical minerals, AI and the data centre program. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. That was just a fantastic job. For those of you who are on the Pigeon Hype, you would have seen all the questions coming in. So thank you for so deftly managing that, and Premier for the frankness and honesty of your responses. And really, in the response to the last question, I think kind of taking us right back to where I started in terms of the importance of a strong economy and a strong social compact, which is of course the way in which a strong economy connects to people and the community. Business dynamism and innovation is one of the key parts of our agenda, and I think the Premier today announced a number of initiatives that are really fundamental to that, going of course to the data centres, building the right skills, but critical minerals, which are going to be so fundamental to enabling this amazing technological transformation that is before us. I'll put a plug in as well for two things. Victoria is a great events state. I'm looking forward to attending the AFLW Grand Final on Saturday, which is of course a sellout. Subject to how that goes, you can maybe catch the train to Arden Station and pop across to Arden Street and join in the celebration. So for those of you in the blue and white, watch out for that. Can I thank our sponsors again today, Westpac Institutional Bank and ExxonMobil, for your support and contribution also to the conversation itself. It's the last public event for me this year, so firstly, can I just take the opportunity to thank all of our members who are here in the room today for your support over the year. Take the opportunity as well to thank my team, many of whom are in the room, for their efforts and tremendous work over the course of the year. Wish you all the best for the festive season. I hope you get the opportunity to spend it with family and friends and reconnect around the things that matter most to us all. But I do have to sort of make sure that I put some breadcrumbs down for next year as well, as is always our way. We didn't land COP for South Australia, but we do have the Climate and Energy Summit 2026 here in Melbourne in May. Really, really important event on the CEDA calendar. The team have been building these summits up over a number of years. They are really great conversations where we are looking to advance not just the discussions, but focus squarely on the things that need to be done to enable us to respond to the climate challenge and manage the energy transition, which honestly is at the core of everything that we're talking about, because without energy it's pretty hard to imagine how you have economic development and provide the services that people need. So please check that out, and always check out our website for all the fun research and other things that we're doing. Thank you so much. Please join me in thanking the Premier again, and stay for dessert if you like.